Kia ora. So in today's classroom, I'm going to give y'all an explanation about different ways the kupu, the word Māori, could be understood. Some people might talk about Māori being an abbreviation of Māoriori. Māori being M-A-O-R-I with a macron on the A, Māori. Again, being abbreviated from Māoriori, M-A-O-R-I-O-R-I. Now, if you look at that, it wasn't that long ago where history in New Zealand was taught that Māori killed and ate the Moriori. Now, I want you to have a look at the abbreviated term Māori and its origin and connection to Māoriori. And when mispronounced, Māoriori could be misunderstood as Moriori. That's just our perspective, but just to make a connect and just to share with y'all that Māori and the Moriori that people talk about from the South Island share similar origins, those origins being from the Pacific. So no matter how we talk about our whakapapa, what is clear is that we originate from the same places. And to share a personal little story, I actually remember being in a history class and my teacher telling me that my people ate the Morioris, and that was, I guess, maybe her way of legitimizing that Māori weren't the original people of Aotearoa, New Zealand. And I remember I challenged that and had to deal with the consequences of challenging the history teacher of the time. And I share this why? Because for so long, Māori and our perspective and our stories about our own origins have been sidelined by non-Māori. And so I just kind of share that as a disclaimer that I don't think there's anything more suppressing than somebody who's not of Māori origin telling somebody of Māori origin that their stories about their own origins are wrong. Another interpretation of Māori is that Māori was not necessarily always a term, Māoridim, used for them to be understood as like one nation of people. You see, pre-colonization, Māori were understood and lived in our marae. And marae were villages of families, whānau. And each marae was usually associated to a hapu, sometimes multiple hapu that are place-based specific. Now, in pre-colonial negotiations where Māori worked with other Māori, it was usually hapu to hapu. So one marae or hapu negotiated and talked with another marae or hapu. And you were understood and referred to by the name of your hapu. For example, I'm from Ngā Pairangi, and up the river a bit we've got Ngāti Tuera, and so it was Pairangi and Tuera that negotiated with each other. And it was not really necessarily understood that we were all seen to be Māori. We were seen to be what our whakapapa was. My whakapapa was Pairangi, their whakapapa was Tuera, and it was Pairangi and Tuera negotiating and having conversations. We shared whakapapa anyway, so there was some type of genealogical connect, which usually gave, a reason for those connections to be made. Long story cut short, move to the future. The Crown, the government, in what was modern for those times, they didn't want to deal with hundreds and hundreds of separate hapu across the country. And they wanted to be able to deal with one group. And so some people will talk about the term Māori being a very new term, at least in the way that it's used, because we didn't have a term that represented all of us as a people. And so, yeah, Māori became or grew to become a term that represented us ethnically across the country. Okay, another way to understand Māori is that Māori actually means origin or originates from somewhere. And so pre-colonial times, Māori wasn't actually a term used to talk about us Māori being the original people, but actually just things being in their original form. And so I guess it makes sense why perhaps Māori in some way or form came to consensus to say, well, actually, Māori is the term that we'll use to talk about our connect here to Aotearoa. Anyway, moving on, is that technically, if you ask me in my personal opinion, every single human in existence is Māori. Because we're all Māori from somewhere. We have an origin to somewhere. And so if you look at it kind of non-ethnically, we're all Māori, no matter where we come from. But at least in the context of Aotearoa, New Zealand, Māori has grown to be understood as those ethnically originated or associated to a hapu, a whānau Māori here in New Zealand, whose whakapapa usually goes back to the Pacific. And of course, depending how far you want to go back, different people can share stories of connection to pre-Pacific times. But just to say, there's a few different ways to understand how the kupu, the word Māori itself, gets its name.